He's not going to be removed. He's not going to be removed. He's not going to be removed.
You feel confident in that?
My 357 Magnum is comfortable with that. End of story.
I would think that there would be a strong movement. It would be very negative. Possible violence.
And they remove him in the Senate. I think it'll cause physical violence in this country that we haven't seen since the first Civil War. I think it'll become the second Civil War.
There'll be a lot of mad Americans, possibly 70, 80 million Americans on the loose, not very happy.
People who've been watching my channel have never actually understood my personal feelings and opinions about this current President Trump. And I've purposefully made myself as vague as possible because as far as I'm concerned, a lot of people nowadays, they don't seem to understand exactly what an independent is. Everybody now expects you to choose a side. They expect you to either choose Apple or Google. They expect you to choose, I don't know, Apple or Microsoft. They expect you to choose SRT or some shitty Japanese Econo box. They expect you to choose, I don't know, what else? McDonald's or Burger King. It's like everybody expects people to choose a side, but I personally don't fall into those traps. I'm an independent person. I'm an independent thinker. And the beauty of that is it's like I'm not beholden to anybody's beliefs and I'm not beholden to anybody's opinions or their criticisms. I could care less, honestly. I wish more people would learn to think the way I do, where they just basically ignore other people's criticisms of them and their opinions and just move on and do their own thing. Now, as far as Trump goes, let me tell you just some things about how I feel about Trump. First of all, my tax returns under Trump have been higher than I've ever seen my tax returns before. Now, on the one hand, that's really good for me because now I can plan, you know, a $5,000 trip in the summer and go business class all the way and then fly to some, you know, poor or impoverished country and take advantage and have fun and everything while simultaneously helping their economy. But on the other hand, you know, America is currently in over $23 trillion worth of debt and tax cuts don't help. In fact, we need to be doing the exact opposite. Either the taxes need to be raised or the government spending needs to be lowered. So when the government is spending $56,000 per second and giving you over $1 trillion a year in a deficit, that's not really good. And the debt has gone up under Trump, but you don't hear anybody talking about it. The same slack-jawed losers who were saying this about Obama when he was in office suddenly have gone completely silent. What happened to all the people talking about all the national debt that went up under George Bush's presidency on September 15, 2008, when the economy collapsed under George Bush? Where are all those people? All of a sudden, they all disappear. Fox News stopped talking about debt. I don't see them putting the debt clock up there no more. Oh, what about our children's futures? Where's the people who are talking all that nonsense? Our children are going to be in bondage and slavery over bailouts. Where are those people? Now that Trump's in office, all of them just seem to have dried up. So you know what they call that? They call it hypocrisy. And then you go back even further. You look at Clinton's presidency when Clinton himself was impeached for lying about his sexual relations with that woman, Monica Lewinsky. Now, Clinton had a Republican Congress there who was basically checking his spending, and they're part of the reason why the man was impeached. Had that been a Democrat Congress, Clinton wouldn't have been impeached. They wouldn't have taken it that far. They wouldn't have wasted that much of America's tax dollars to come out with a non-conviction and a non-removal. In my opinion, Trump is not going to be removed from office under this impeachment. No, what's going to most likely happen is he'll get these charges addressed to him, and he'll probably just, you know, let it go and he'll just keep on moving because the Republicans control the Senate, so they're not going to convict him. However, what this is about is putting Trump in the history books as an impeached president. It's a damn shame that most of you don't pay attention to history class and you pretty much cut class or you just play Nintendo Switch or something and you're not paying attention while you're in school because you're probably on your phone texting your girlfriend or something. In 1868, Andrew Johnson himself was impeached, and the reason why was because he tried to fire his Secretary of War. And he became the first president to basically be impeached, but fortunately for him, they didn't remove him, and he ended up serving out his entire term. It wasn't that big a deal. And something else I'd like to point out before I move on, back then we actually called the person a Secretary of War, not a Secretary of quote-unquote defense. America's current defense, quote unquote, is not really defense. It's actually offense. When you're going to other countries like Bolivia in order to steal their lithium, or you're going to Venezuela in order to steal their oil, or you're imposing sanctions on everybody and then saying the reason why they're poor is because they're socialist. Well, at a certain point, it's no longer spending 8 times more than every other developed country in the world to be defense, because you're not defending yourselves. What you're doing is you're offending others. You're in other people's country with foreign military adventurism. What I can say, however, is that seems to have come to a stop when it comes to China, because with all that Hong Kong protesting over there and all that Donald Trump trade war, what you have not seen is American soldiers going over there to do anything about what's going on in Hong Kong. You also haven't seen them going over there to do anything about Taiwan. Oh, gee, you know why? It's because there's nothing you can do against the PRC government. Absolutely nothing. We can bully the Venezuelans because they don't have a real military. We can screw with Mexico. We can screw with Cuba. We can screw with Haiti. But when it comes to the Chinese, you kind of ought to have to back some of that bullshit down. And then there's Bill Clinton, or as I like to call him, Slick Willie. So basically, he lied when he was under oath about having sexual relations with that woman, Monica Lewinsky, and he got himself impeached. Now, basically, the fines and whatnot they gave him were a slap on the wrist. However, I think it cost him a lot of money because they had that special prosecutor, Ken Starr, go after him. So as far as he was claiming, they were actually bankrupted by the Ken Starr investigation. But as you know, yes, Bill Clinton was impeached, and yes, he was basically, found, I should say, or not convicted on obstruction of justice charges. So he was impeached. And in my opinion, yes, he did something wrong. He committed a crime, and it was the Republican Senate at the time. It was their job to do what they did and to impeach him. Anytime somebody's breaking the law, they're supposed to get impeached. Period. That's just how it works. So what is the argument against Trump? Well, basically, I'm watching right now Capitol Hill, 5:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Guy Reschenthaler, I guess that's his name, he's up there basically saying, yes, the Democrats have been trying to get Trump since the very beginning. However, it's as if he wants us to forget that as a candidate, Trump did unspeakable things that normally would have ended anyone else's presidential bid. And I mean, I can't even count them on one finger. I mean, you know, throwing people out of rallies violently, denying them their coat, saying that we're going to throw you out, not give you their coat, making fun of handicapped reporters. I could keep going on. I mean, the tapes talking about grabbing women by their private parts. Bottom line is this: the things that this guy has done on tape. Now, I'm not even talking about the things that we think are true that we don't know are true for real. I'm talking about the things that we have evidence for, video evidence, are outrageous. So the thing about it is, if it was me and I was the Speaker of the House, you would have been impeached on obstruction of justice for one. But on top of that, I would have gotten you for conduct unbecoming an officer. Because if you're going to stand there and tell police that they should abuse suspects, as far as I'm concerned, that right there should have been the reason why you got impeached. So all of this nonsense about the Ukraine and Russia and everything, I would have gotten you on two totally different things.
It's essential that Congress fund another 10,000 ICE officers, and we're asking for that, so that we can eliminate MS-13 and root out the criminal cartels from our country. Now, we're getting them out anyway, but we'd like to get them out a lot faster. And when you see these towns, and when you see these thugs being thrown into the back of a paddy wagon, you just see them thrown in, rough. I said, please don't be too nice. Like when you guys put somebody in the car and you're protecting their head, you know, the way you put their hand over. Like, don't hit their head, and they've just killed somebody, don't hit their head. I said, you can take the hand away, okay?
Now, I don't know if this clown has ever read anything that has to do with criminal code in the United States of America, but what I can say is that suspects are innocent until proven guilty, and it's not the police's job to punish suspects. The police's job is to arrest and to bring these people to the courts, and the court's job is supposed to be to hand down a sentence. Supposedly, I was told that in this country, you're innocent until proven guilty. Apparently, this person thinks that that's not true and that people are guilty just because of the fact that they're suspects. That sets a dangerous precedent for this country, and I'm disappointed in all those blue cowards behind him who weren't willing to say anything, and they should have. Regardless how you feel about it, right now, the House of Representatives is doing their job, and their job is to impeach Trump. To tell you the truth, they should have also impeached Bush, but apparently back then Nancy Pelosi didn't have the spine that she has now. Bush should have been impeached for the lies that were told, which led up to the Iraq War and cost us the lives of so many U.S. soldiers, not to mention so many other people related to that war, and on the other side, the innocents who had nothing to do with it and had never attacked America. But that's a story for another time. As far as this one goes, Trump has earned his impeachment. And regardless what you think or how you feel about it, he is going to be impeached. The question is whether or not his vanity will cause him to do what Nixon did and bow out by resigning before he can actually be served with the articles of impeachment. If he does that, which it's a very big possibility he probably won't. But the thing about it is I have to wonder about his personal vanity. You see, there's only been 3 American presidents impeached. And if Trump gets impeached, his name will go down in history as an impeached president. Bill Clinton, Johnson, Trump, all of them will be attached to the word impeachment, which is funny because most people who don't pay attention in school think Nixon was impeached when Nixon wasn't impeached. Nixon resigned before impeachment. So it's actually good that now we're actually having this history lesson and we're getting to see exactly how the wheels of justice actually work. But the bottom line is Trump is going to be an impeached president. He can win in 2020 because the Democrats don't have their shit together and they haven't put together anybody to actually garner getting votes. However, there are some people who are going to vote for whatever the Democrats put in front of them. But what I can say is Trump very well could win November 2020, but it's not going to matter. He's going to go down in history as an impeached president, which means that for the rest of the history of the world, the future of the world, when the aliens come to America and find our history books and humans are dead and long gone and there's just bones and there's records and shit left over and the aliens dig all that stuff up, they're going to read American history and they're going to know that Trump was an impeached president.